Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Anime Man. Ever since the beginning of physics and science, we've always been fascinated in the concepts of time travel. How cool would it be to travel to the past to witness the views long gone, or maybe travel to the future to see what's to come? Regardless of whether what's to come is our inevitable demise or not, we probably still want to see it. A lot of brilliant minds have turned to fiction to explore and play around with these time traveling concepts, while using really intricate stories and interesting characters. And the medium of anime and manga is certainly no exception to this creative endeavor, because it seems that these time travel stories have been quite a crowd favorite within the anime and manga community, usually involving a more intelligent and edgy mindset to fully understand and fully appreciate the confusing yet mind-blowing timelines and narrative structures, because everybody loves a good old mindfuck, am I right? And one such anime that is taking up quite a bit of storm and popularity this current season is the anime RE0. This story follows our main character Subaru, who finds himself getting transported suddenly into an RPG-like world, because that setting hasn't been fucking overdone at this point, and soon finds out that once he dies or gets killed, instead of resting in Pepperoni's 5 ever, he travels back to the past to redo his life, whilst keeping all of the memories from his past life before he gets killed. How fucking convenient. Now at this point, if you're thinking this is just gonna be another one of those rants from me which are like, this anime is getting overhyped and popular now, so I'm gonna arbitrarily shit talk and critique on it, then sadly, you'd be wrong. With there only being 6 episodes of a 24 episode series being aired at the time of this recording, it's kinda hard to critique and analyze this series with solid reasoning just yet. And to be honest, while I was a little bit skeptical about this series right near the beginning, I'm actually slowly starting to enjoy it right now. The Anime Man likes a popular series from this season? What is this fucking blasphemy? Now, while I am enjoying this anime thus far, one problem I have with this series is the fact that people are calling it a time travel anime. Because one thing I can say with absolute certainty about RE0, even right from the first episode of the series, is that this series is not a time travel anime. Now you might be thinking to yourself, but anime dude, when Subaru gets killed, he travels back in time to the past. How is that not time travel? Yes, at a surface level, it seems like Subaru is in fact traveling in time. But if we look at the physics concerning the laws governing the series, Subaru is technically not time traveling, but rather dimensional hopping. This is about to get science as fuck, so prepare your anus. The main difference between time traveling and dimensional hopping is that when you time travel, you are traveling within a one-dimensional timeline. In other words, if Subaru was time traveling, then he would travel back to the past of the timeline that he was just killed in. Now, this dimension works independently to the new Subaru that just got killed. In other words, everything that happens within this timeline stays the same way, regardless of if an outside entity like future Subaru enters it. Because if this future Subaru does something to the past that he was just killed in, and in turn creates a cause that changes the effect of the future that he just came from, ladies and gentlemen, we have just created a paradox. So what does that all mean? Simply put, if Subaru does in fact time travel, we would see 2 Subarus. One Subaru from the future who just got killed and came back to the past, and another Subaru who actually belongs in the past. In other words, once Subaru dies and time travels back to his past, he would actually witness his past self replaying everything that happened within his past. However, if you have watched RE0 up to this point, then you would know that that is not the case. We never see 2 Subarus on the screen at once, and every time Subaru does time travel back to the past, we see future events changing because past events have changed based on the new Subaru entering the past. The only way that we can explain this without the use of paradoxes is that Subaru must be dimension hopping. When Subaru gets killed, he actually travels to the past of an alternate dimension, a dimension that runs parallel to the timeline in which he was just killed. In this dimension, there is no past Subaru because technically that dimension doesn't actually occur until a new Subaru from the different future does enter the past of this current dimension. Now, in this new dimension that future Subaru has just jumped into, all of his past events of meeting all the characters and then suddenly gets killed doesn't actually happen or never has happened. And thus, the causes and effect of Subaru actually dying in that old dimension also hasn't actually happened, and so Subaru technically hasn't died. And thus the future of Subaru actually dying doesn't and will never happen unless the Subaru that was just killed and is now in this new timeline creates a cause, which in turn creates an effect that leads to new Subaru dying in a new timeline, and thus results in him jumping to yet another dimension where, again, everything that happened in the past didn't and will never happen, unless, of course, he does create another cause, which in turn makes him dead again. If your mind didn't overload and explode from that explanation just yet, then props to you and welcome to physics, buddy. Now here's where things get a little bit depressing for little old Subaru in this new dimensional timeline that he's in. While all the familiar faces that rested in pepperonis in the previous timeline are now alive and well and haven't really changed in appearance or personality, they're technically not the same people. Since technically speaking, the Subaru that we see in the new dimension is from a different dimension, if we look solely from his past that he has witnessed, all of his friends are still dead. If, for example, this new Subaru who has now entered this new dimension where all of his friends are still alive and saves his friends in this new dimension, if hypothetically speaking he could jump back to the future where he got killed in, even though he saved his friends in this new dimension that he was trapped in, all of his friends would still be dead in the dimension that he was from. This is due to the nature of parallel dimensions working independent to one another. A cause that changes the outcome of a future in one dimension does not determine the outcome of another dimension. Now that brings a whole new level to rest in pepperonis, my dude. Now while this series isn't technically a time travel anime, being a dimensionally traveling anime, it actually does one thing brilliantly. And that is the fact that in order for Subaru to travel from dimension to dimension, he needs to die. By Subaru dying in his dimension, it ultimately nullifies and makes the dimension that Subaru died in become irrelevant to both the main character and the other side characters, as well as us, the audience, watching Subaru die, because as we just witnessed, everyone fucking died. Thus, with Subaru starting anew in this new dimension that he just jumped into after he died, it creates a narrative that is constantly staying the same while simultaneously feel like it's moving forward, which creates a sense of progression in terms of plot and character development while never having to advance the actual setting that it is based in. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty smart story. So now you might be wondering,
Okay, Animu dude, if RE0 isn't a time travel anime, then what is?
well, I personally believe the best anime that deals with actual time travel as well as dimensional travel is the Suzumiya Haruhi series. Now let me just clarify, I completely understand why some people believe that the time travel aspect of the Suzumiya Haruhi series is rather bullshit. As the people who have read or watched the series know, the main character Haruhi is the one who is controlling the universe and all the laws that dwell within it. So the setting can become rather OP depending on how Haruhi acts within the story. However, the underlying reasons and theories concerning the laws of time travel within the series actually makes a lot of sense. On multiple occasions, the main characters avoid or sometimes even purposely reveal themselves in front of their past and future selves through multiple dimensions to retain or change the outcomes of their respective timelines. Now, a lot of the time, their business is held within a one-dimensional timeline, so technically speaking, most of the time they are in fact time traveling rather than dimensional traveling. Usually with these kinds of one-dimensional time traveling, by going back to the past and changing the cause, which in turn changes the effect, would actually change their future and create all sorts of contradictions and paradoxes. However, in the Suzumiya Haruhi series, they actually explain the workaround of these contradictions and paradoxes in a simple but rather brilliant way. It's that the overall outcomes of anything in any dimension is actually predetermined. Any time travel or the results and causes of time travel is actually already predetermined in the future of that dimension, and thus paradoxes and contradictions are a natural occurrence. For example, in the film The Disappearance of Suzumiya Haruhi, a fucking brilliant film might I add, they managed to actually create a stable time loop within one-dimensional space. in the movie, future Kyon relays a message to his past self just as he's about to die, which ultimately saves his life. Now, past Kyon remembers what future Kyon said, and thus, when he becomes the new future Kyon in his future, he remembers the message that his future self brought, and thus this new future Kyon goes back to his past and tells his future self to do the exact same thing as what his future self told him to do. That was confusing as fuck to even say. Thus, with every new past Kyon becoming a future Kyon, it in turn creates a future Kyon which goes back to his past, his relative past, and tells his relative past self to do the exact same thing to his relative past, which in turn asks his past self to do the same thing with his relative past self, and so on and so forth for all eternity. Now that, my friends, is how you write an actual time travel story. And even when things start to contradict drastically in later volumes of the novel series, they introduce split and alternate dimensions and even explain the predetermination of these split dimensions coming together to create yet again another predetermined future for all foreseeable futures of all foreseeable alternative dimensions. So not only does the Suzumiya Haruhi series deal with actual time travel, but it also deals with dimensional travel at the same time. Now that is what I call awesome fictional physics. Yeah, science! Now if you've made it this far in the video, you might be thinking to yourself this. Okay, Joey, we get it. It's two different things, okay? Yeah, time travel, dimensional travel, physics, whatever. I don't give a shit. It's all still time travel to me, okay? Who the fuck even cares? And you know what? If you think that, that's absolutely fine. I just personally think there's a problem with clumping all series that deal with any kind of dimensional or time traveling tropes under the time travel title. Because as you hopefully understood in this long ass video, they're technically not the same thing. Think of them as apples and oranges. They're both fruit, but they're not the same fruit. I personally love both types of series, ones that deal with actual time travel and ones that deal with dimensional traveling. But if we look at it like this from an analytical and critical level, you can see actually how difficult it is to create a good time travel story and a weak time travel story. And it turns out while RE0 fails to be a time travel story, I think it's actually a pretty good dimensional travel story. But again, we're only 6 episodes deep, so who knows what might happen right at the end. There might be an episode right near the end of the series that will just completely fuck up everything. Erased. Guys, let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite time travel anime? What is your favorite dimensional travel anime? Also, how do you determine if a time travel, dimensional travel, or just time and dimensional travel anime is good or not? Do you look for anything in particular? Do you look for any details? Or do you just see that it's time traveling or dimensional traveling and think, yeah, I like that. I want you guys to let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments below. And if you want to check out some quality anime from this season or from any past seasons, then I recommend you go over to Crunchyroll. And just for you guys, you can sign up for a free trial using my link, crunchyroll.com/animeman, where you can watch 1080p ad-free anime. How good does that fucking sound? If you want to check that out, then make sure to click that first link in the description below, yo. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. As always,